which is one of the assumptions that ties together the texts that make up this book, is the exercise of listening to the space and context. In your writing practice, what does it mean to listen to a place? Or to play,
well,
no? To a place.
Yes. Well, first of all, I really would like to thank you and Bárbara and Jorge and everyone who's taking part of this project, the Pavilion Eco, and for inviting me and for this dialogue we are opening up now. I will try to answer. I think it's, for me, listening has to do with dialogue. And since it's a dialogue, has to do with being able to listen to the other on many different layers. So listening to the place, of course, it implies the people, the space itself, but in a much broader sense, the human and humans, the kind of material semiotics, what's implied there. But I would say that I'm always looking at what Keller Easterling says about disposition, and that's also in the text. I'm always, when I'm writing, when I'm curating, when I'm doing art projects, exhibitions, all different sorts. I mean, all different sorts of agencement or assemblage. For me, listening to the place, to the other, it's key to build up a collaboration, to build up something that is a common. So in that sense, when I do that, and it has to do with disposition, it has to do with the qualities of the other, what are, and many of them, some of them are subtle, less visible, more visible. So how do I approach it in all these different ways. And what was beautiful about this experience with writing this specific essay for the Parque Experimental Eco for Après de l'Esp's Pavilion, it was also an experimentation for me. It was also an experience and experimentation. Eco is experimenting space. They were proposing experimenting. They experimenting the space, the appropriation, the uses, which mean a lot to me. So then I saw myself, why am I going to repeat somehow like a critical formal, kind of format for the text? So I took the writing as an experiment for myself, much more implicated personally. Usually I'm quite sort of abstract, and then I said, no, I'm going to bring from my guts together with all what really matters, and that reverberates with the pavilion, with the place. But it's also a kind of storytelling that I receive because I haven't experienced that pavilion. I've never been to Mexico. No, I've been when I was a kid. I was trying to come last year. I was trying this year, but now we don't travel. So I understood. Okay, so it was beautiful. It's like it was listening to all of you and to all the videos and to all the texts and the plans and the drawings and the desires, and then and bringing this together and implicating myself within that, taking it as an experimenting process. I don't know if I've answered, but
yes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I see in your text an interest in addressing the polyphonies of the world and the links between these polyphonies. For example, you establish a link between the Eco Pavilion and the Ibirapuera Park, an iconic place of Sao Paulo. So could you tell us a little bit more about this park and also about your decision to write about this place that is familiar to you?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Yes, I'm always very interested on the polyphony of the situations, the conditions, the heterogeneity, and by living in São Paulo, which is such a big metropolis, and considering Mexico also as another big metropolis, we are in Americas, you know, like South Central America, North America. Understanding that the Parque Experimental Eco was exactly a combination that they were trying to bring this everyday infrastructure, combining the museum with the park. I understood that it was key to also bring then these experiences of the museums and parks from São Paulo, and then I combined with New York. So they're all sort of American, and Mexico. They're all big scales, but then and then it has to do with affection, because I like a lot this place. And also has to do with the kind of modernity that was implied in the whole territory. And for example, Ibirapuera Park was exactly built in the 50s, same time as El Eco, with a very specific moment, no, like of in our South Central America and even North, to build up a sort of post Second World War, to build up a kind of nation idea, there was a desire to build up a country at that moment here in Brazil. And then this park, it's a very key space and monument to that. But at the same time, that has this monumental quality that works on all these political levels of macro politics. It also works on a micro politics, because it's very appropriated by all the people from everywhere in the city, from all different classes, and which makes it very unique. And then you have, and I bring specifically the marquee, which is very beautiful organic canopy connecting all these different museums and infrastructures. And it's so alive, it's so strong, and so heterogeneous. As again, Abradelas proposed as in El Eco in a different scale to have like sports, basketball, people using all these different kinds of uses. And you also have this richness in Ibirapuera Park. So I wanted to somehow dialogue with you guys and with them, bringing these experiences that are familiar to me, that could be familiar to who has experienced the pavilion 2016.
Your text in Spanish, it's the translation is Carta desde un piso común cambiante, which I really like in Spanish.
Yeah.
But when I read it, I think of architecture, that there are something, or infrastructure now that you mentioned, that's something that it's put at disposition, which is also some of the ideas that you were mentioning, something to be used, transformed, even forced to something, violentado, I was thinking in Spanish. And so this, I really like the idea of this common changing ground as a notion, that can inform our approach to site, place, architecture. Like, can you unpack a little bit more this this notion of the common changing ground?
Wow. Yes. I think that's a big potential for architecture, for art, for all sorts of uses, and living and modes of living, all forms of life. So when I bring that, it's again looking at the qualities and dispositions as you and the ability they have to sort of cross, violate, gather, separate, and so many things that we are so many times unconscious about it, and they are so powerful. I mean, a very basic example that even Keller brings from another, that when you have a ball, when you have a ramp, and the ball has the disposition to roll down because of this combination of the ball and the gravity and so on. So there are many qualities that are implicated, but of course, as she calls, like an active form. So the floor, of course, is one ability that it's maybe human-made, and the ground is the earth, and it's. I wouldn't be so precise on the differentiations, but I think it's more interesting for me how we combine and so I'm interested in looking at them at specific moments. I wrote this text while I was writing my PhD thesis that I just finished in December. And the title changed along the way, and it ended up as being, the title is called Moving Earth Ground. And then I look at art, ritual, and the pontos riscados, which are these Afro-descendants, ephemeral drawings on the ground, on the skin of the earth, as this tapestry again. So I see very much a connection now, just now, talking to, between maybe this small essay, but very deep, very implicated, and the process of the thesis. And I'm very interested on, and I was talking about that because of and I start with a letter. The thesis, I wanted to have it always a letter format, but it was too experimental for an academia context. So, but I open and I close with a letter of, and I open with a letter about an experience of an earthquake, and I bring that this moving earth ground can be a violence, but it can also be freedom, and then bringing out the notions of territory, indigenous, Afro-descendants, all the coloniality process, and how do I decolonize myself, and how do we do, and all these different layers. And I don't know if I've answered your question, but it has all this implicated when I bring this understanding of the crown. And it's about the earth. We all live in this very sort of small skin of the earth, no? We're all here. The atmosphere, it's so fragile, so critical. And so it's common. And I think we are now learning in a very violent way that it's to take care again, for caring. Taking care in the sense of faire d'attention, and taking care of, like Isabel Stenger brings, like in regards to Gaia and so on, and taking care as taking care of each other, dialoguing, listening, building up other common grounds, and at the same time it's planetary, and at the same time I think very small minimum gestures. We're gonna build up this. Have to invent again. I don't know, I'm deviating, but